It happens in a heartbeat, often before you even have a chance to think. Someone looks at you with genuine warmth, a friend, a partner, or perhaps a mentor, and they offer you a piece of praise. Maybe they tell you that your work was incredible, or that you look beautiful today, or simply that you are a kind person. But instead of feeling a glow of appreciation, you feel a sudden sharp drop in temperature. A distinct flash of anxiety seizes your chest. It feels less like a gift and more like an accusation, a spotlight turned on a part of you that you would rather keep hidden. Your brain immediately enters a state of panic, scrambling to neutralize the threat. You deflect, you joke, you explain it away. You say, "Oh, I just got lucky," or "This isn't a big deal," tearing down the moment before it has a chance to settle. And once the compliment is successfully destroyed, once you've convinced them and yourself that you are merely average, you feel a strange, twisted sense of relief. You return to the safety of being unremarkable. We need to talk about why positive reinforcement feels so painful for so many of us. Why is it that, for the anxious and the introspective, kindness often feels like an attack? We tend to categorize this behavior as modesty or humility, virtues that society tells us to uphold. But if we are being honest with ourselves, what happens in that moment of rejection is not humility. True humility is simply knowing your place in the grand scheme of things. It is quiet and grounded. What we are experiencing is a violent allergy to our own value. It is a deep-seated defense mechanism, a glitch in our self-perception that equates love with danger. At its core, the inability to accept a compliment is a conflict between perception and reality. It is the unshakable conviction that the person the world sees, the person receiving the praise, is a fabrication. When you struggle with this, you live your life with a sharp divide between your front stage and your backstage. The front stage is the curated version of yourself that you present to survive socially. It is the smiling exterior, the achievements, the mask of competence. When someone compliments you, they are almost always complimenting the mask. They see the finished product. But you live backstage. You live in the messy dressing room of your mind, surrounded by the anxieties, the dark thoughts, the rehearsals, and the failures that you have buried in the backyard of your memory. You know the chaotic truth of who you really are. So when someone says, "You are so competent," your brain immediately pulls up a forensic file labeled "Evidence to the Contrary." You remember the time you overslept, the time you choked under pressure, the secret fears you harbor at 3 a.m. Accepting the compliment, therefore, feels deeply dishonest. It feels like accepting a trophy for a race you cheated in. You feel like an imposter waiting to be caught. The logic of the subconscious is brutal. If you accept their praise, you are participating in the lie. And if you participate in the lie, you are setting yourself up for a catastrophic fall. You fear that if you let them believe you are special, one day they will see the real you, and the inevitable disappointment will destroy you. It is safer to reject the praise now, to lower their expectations immediately, than to risk the devastation of letting them down later. You are managing their expectations to protect yourself from abandonment. But where do we learn this script? As with most fractures in the human psyche, we must look backward to the architects of our reality, our early environments. For many, this inability to receive stems from a childhood where love was conditional. If you grew up in a home where praise was scarce, rationed out only for exceptional achievements, you learned a dangerous lesson. Your worth is tied to your utility. You weren't celebrated for just existing. You were celebrated for performing. In this framework, a compliment isn't just nice words, it is pressure. If a parent or authority figure told you, "You're so smart," your child brain didn't hear affection. It heard a mandate. It heard, "You must continue to be smart, or you will lose my approval." Every compliment became a new standard you had to maintain, a heavier weight on your shoulders. Rejecting a compliment, then, is a way to shrug off that weight. It is a way of saying, please don't expect this from me again. I am tired of performing. Alternatively, the wound may come from the opposite direction. Perhaps you grew up in an environment where you were actively torn down, where your flaws were magnified under a microscope and your strengths were ignored. If you spent your formative years being told you were too much, too loud, difficult, or simply not enough, those voices eventually moved into your head. They became your internal narrator. When that negative self-talk is your baseline reality, a compliment feels like a glitch in the matrix. It simply does not compute with the data you have stored about yourself. It feels foreign, untrustworthy, even manipulative. If you believe you are fundamentally flawed, someone calling you good feels like they are either lying to get something from you or they are tragically misguided. In either case, you cannot let it in, because to let it in would require you to rewrite your entire history. We build these defenses, this reflexive deflection, this armor of self-deprecation, to protect ourselves from the pain of being seen and found wanting. But there is a terrible, hidden cost to this protection. When you habitually reject compliments, you are building a fortress against love. Think about what a compliment actually is. It is an act of connection. It is someone reaching out across the void between two minds and saying, I see you, and I value what I see. It is a gift of their perspective. When you immediately deflect, downplay, or argue with a compliment, you aren't just hurting yourself. You are rejecting the giver. You are essentially telling them, your perception of reality is wrong. Your judgment is flawed. Your kindness is misplaced. In a way, you are gaslighting their attempt to connect with you. You are refusing to accept their gift. Over time, this teaches the people around you that loving you is difficult. It teaches them that throwing warmth your way is like throwing a ball against a brick wall. It just bounces back harder. Eventually, they stop throwing, and you are left safe, unburdened by expectations, but profoundly lonely inside the fortress of your own perceived inadequacy. You starve yourself of the very connection you crave because you don't believe you deserve to eat. So how do we begin to dismantle the fortress? How do we fix a glitch that feels so fundamental to who we are? It is not about suddenly developing a massive ego or blinding self-confidence. Healing rarely happens in giant leaps. It happens in quiet, uncomfortable shifts. The first step is simply realizing that your internal view of yourself is not the only truth. You are too close to your own flaws to see the whole picture. You are staring at the pixels. They are seeing the image. The view from outside is just as valid as the view from backstage. You don't have to believe the compliment right away. You just have to stop fighting it. The next time someone offers you praise, I want you to notice the physical urge to deflect. Notice the heat rising in your chest, the impulse to shake your head, the script forming on your tongue to explain why they are wrong. Catch that impulse, hold it, and then do the hardest thing in the world. Do nothing. Don't explain it away. Don't insult yourself to balance the scales. Just say the two hardest words in the language for people like us. Thank you. And then stop talking. Sit in the excruciating discomfort of that silence. Let the compliment hang in the air. It will feel wrong. It will feel arrogant. It will feel like you are lying. Do it anyway. By saying thank you, you are not necessarily agreeing that you are perfect. You are simply acknowledging a gift. You are honoring the person who gave it to you. You are allowing yourself for just a second to be seen flaws, shadows, performance and all, and realizing that maybe, just maybe, what they see is worth loving. It's okay if you don't believe it yet. Let them believe it for you until you can. Take care.